Steve from the garden. My first frost is on the way. It's going to be coming this Friday. So it's time for me to get at least one layer of plastic on here to protect the plants that I have in here. First thing I did was remove the second set of hoops on here, put those off to the side so I can easily access the inner layer of the hoops. So my next thing is to go through and put my plastic on here and start cutting it in the sides. I checked my inner and outer layers of plastic from last year. The inner layer, which was on the hoop house the longest, plastic had kind of deteriorated. So I'm going to use the outer layer on the inner layer this year, and I'll put a new outer layer on after that. Now, since this was the outer layer last year, you can see it's much longer than the actual edge of the board. But once I pull everything tight and I screw it down, I can just trim off that extra. Now it is important to try to get this plastic pretty tight so that it doesn't like flap around a lot when we get windy days. If it starts moving a lot, that's when the plastic can rip and tear. I'm not going to go and hit every screw on the way down. I'm just going to pull it tight at different areas, screw those down, and then once I have the whole thing tight, then I'll come back and hit the screws in the middle. Alright, so I got this end wall done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a utility knife and trim off the excess plastic, and this first layer will be ready. Now in a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, depending on what the weather does, at that time then I'll add the second layer on here. And there we go. We got our first layer. My plant's on the inside. We got a hinge on the other side. This will just create like a little mini greenhouse to keep everything growing up through the beginning of winter. It's been a few weeks since I put that first layer of plastic on, but this week we're going to have temperatures, overnight temperatures down below freezing, so it's time to get that second layer on. Now, one important difference between doing the first layer and the second layer is the second layer is going to be exposed to the weather all winter long, and the furring strips that I'm using, they're going to have to go right along on the outside on the vertical part. These strips are from last year, and so these holes right here are for where this handle goes. So I'll take the handle off, pull the plastic in, and we'll start getting the furring strips on. I got the first side secure. Now I got to do the second side. On the second side, this is where you're putting your tension on the plastic. So it's important to really try to get this pretty tight. Get the first screw in on the other side, and then as best you can, try to get it secured on this side. Once you have a screw on each end, then it'll be easier to pull the plastic down and get that tension that you need on it so that it doesn't flap a lot. And if it's not flapping, it's not less likely to tear during the winter time. For the end wall, I put one screw on each side so that I can manipulate the middle here. Once I have this about as tight as I reasonably can, I go ahead and put one screw right here in the middle. Now hold that one in place, and with that one middle screw in place, I go ahead and Probably put as much tension as I can on this other side. Get another screw in the middle here. And then I can kind of put some more tension on these like middle parts and tighten this up as much as I can. With both end walls secured now, I'm just going to cut off some of this extra plastic. I'm going to leave a little bit on it just so that I have something to hold on to next year when I go to retension it. Because in spring I do take this off. Well, there we go. Got my second layer of plastic on, got my handle back in place. So I can lift this thing up, set it back down. And I use pieces of wood to prop this open. I got a couple different lengths, just depending on how warm it's going to be that day. During the dead of winter, it stays closed pretty much all the time. And last winter, I was able to grow lettuce through the entire winter time. Now, it should be noted that this is not greenhouse plastic. This is just plastic sheeting. So it won't last anywhere near as long as real greenhouse plastic will. And it won't transmit as much light either. But for a little bit of growing I do in this bed through the winter, it's good enough. Well, hope you enjoyed and got something out of this. Let me know if you have a project similar to this going on, and we'll see you on the next one.